UTIs are the worst. I've been there. One year, I had 8 UTIs. If you get UTIs, then you understand how awful the cycle can be. I was taking all the precautions, and cranberry products, they just never worked for me. I was desperate for a way to be proactive. It was hard on me and on my husband.
It was tough to see her in pain, and I wanted to help.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Spencer.
With Spencer's background in biochemistry
and our shared frustration when it came to UTIs, we were inspired to start Eucora.
At Eucora, we make innovative urinary tract supplements and UTI relief products. Our effective urinary tract supplements finally give you a way to be proactive.
Feel like you've tried everything? We get it. We have a money-back guarantee so you can try risk-free. If you're not happy, you'll get a full refund.
We're on a mission to help women get their lives back. Ready to join them?
Get 30% off Eucora when you go to eucora.com/audio. That's UQORA.com/audio.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Of course, Blair with us in 15 minutes. Let's talk some NFL playoffs here. I think there are 5 folks that have the most riding on these NFL playoffs as we move forward. The wild card round is behind us. We've kind of trimmed the fat a little bit to an extent. And now you're kind of looking at the cream of the NFL crop as we progress forward. So I'll start at the bottom at number 5, and I'll go to number 1, who I think has the most to gain and or lose. I think those are kind of the same thing as we get this far into the deal. Let's go with number 5. I've got Dan Campbell at number 5. Obviously, very important. They had a great team last year, went out to San Francisco and couldn't quite get it done. They've got another great team this year. I mean, Jared Goff's not like past his prime. They've got a really good roster. The Colster's very good. So I'm not suggesting this is it for Dan Campbell, but I think most people would look at the NFC and suggest that even with all the injuries, the Lions have the best team. I'll hear your case for Philadelphia, absolutely. But this is a big spot for Dan Campbell to climb the mountain. He was a guy that didn't get a shot for a number of years. The Dolphins gave him that interim tag, and then he goes to New Orleans, and then all of a sudden he's getting his opportunity with the Lions, and now he's got a team that's as good as anybody in the NFL, and this is a big, big spot for Dan Campbell. So I don't think a massive amount to lose here for Dan Campbell, but I do think a good amount to gain. We go to number 4, and there's not a ton to lose for these guys, but when you're talking about immortality, and I will group them together here, Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes have a ton to gain here because they are attempting to climb the ultimate mountain. Their legacies, as far as the floor, is set. All-time greats. Andy Reid has done it at 2 different stops, sustained excellence. No, didn't quite get over the hump in Philly, but consistently knocked on that door and has proven that he's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the sport. And Mahomes now is kind of competing against a very, very, very small number of quarterbacks. It's your Bradshaws and your Aikmans and certainly your Bradys as far as the greatest of all time in terms of championships. And he's competing, I think, with Brady to try to get there. Who knows how long this can last? How long does Andy Reid want to do it? How long is Kelsey going to be there? Can the defense continue to drag this offense along as Mahomes kind of operates it expertly? I've never seen a team that, I mean, let's call it what it was. This is a 15-1 football team. They went 15-2, but it's a 15-1 football team that has been talked about as negatively as the Chiefs, and I've been part of that. And I think it could be an issue in the playoffs. We'll see. But they won 15 freaking games in the regular season. So they're chasing immortality. They're not trying to define their legacy like Dan Campbell, like honestly the next 3 guys on this list. But they're chasing something bigger than that, and I think that's fascinating to watch. So that would be number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is a unicorn for this list. It's Nick Sirianni. Okay, has there ever been a coach in more turmoil from the city or like the team. The press conferences are weird. The media, it's just all weird for a team that I think everybody looks at and goes, yeah, they could win the Super Bowl. Like Jalen Hurts has been in this situation before, and like they could win the Super Bowl. And everybody thinks this guy is bad or an idiot or like abrasive or the city doesn't like. I don't know what's going on. But if they win the next 3 games, I think all that has to go away, right? Like you can't win the Super Bowl and everybody go, yeah, but I hate this guy. This is a truly, I think, in this sport right now, a unique situation where there's a sustained level of success. The Eagles they fell apart last year. I don't know what happened after Thanksgiving. I don't know. They ended up going to Tampa and they just couldn't play football. I don't know what happened. But they've corrected it. They're a great team this year. Look at the record. Look at the running game. Look at the defense. The personnel has been awesome. Jeffrey Lurie has consistently put a great product out there, and Sirianni's coached it well this year, I think. Like, I'm not at practice. I don't know. I'm not on the headset. I can't speak to the entire hierarchy of the organization, but like, they all hate this guy, and they're as good as anybody in the league. So, to me, this is a pretty big spot for him because, like, if they lose this weekend, do I know if he's going to get fired or not? I have no idea. I don't know. I can't think of a situation quite like this that Nick Sirianni is in. So, he's number 3. I got Dan Campbell at 5, Reed Mahomes at 4, Nick Sirianni at 3. Number 2, I got Josh Allen. I don't think anybody right now has any misconceptions that Josh Allen has issues in the playoffs. Nobody's blaming him that they went to Kansas City a couple years ago and he scores the touchdown to give them the lead, and Mahomes goes right down the field in like 8 seconds, gets a field goal, and then beats him in overtime, and he never gets the ball. Like that, to me, not Josh Allen's fault. He's lost to Burrow, yes, in the playoffs, but I think that most people feel like Josh Allen has been up to the task in the playoffs. They just haven't gotten to the Super Bowl and certainly haven't won it. So there's a ton on the line for him. He's an MVP level player. He's an elite talent. I think the fan base is completely wrapped their arms around him. And while I thought this was a huge rebuild, Beck thought, no, the Bills will be really, really good. Well, turns out the Bills really, really good. So there's a ton on the line here for Josh Allen.
I think it's a great observation.
Hey, thanks, Coach McMahon. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that this is a huge spot for Josh Allen. Obviously, I've got him at number 2. And then the guy that he'll see on the other sideline on Sunday, unequivocally, this is the biggest spot for Lamar Jackson. Because you can poke holes in his postseason resume. Now, I have watched Lamar Jackson in the regular season far too often for my liking. Y'all know I've been a diehard Bengals fan for decades, and by decades, I mean 5 years. And I've watched the Bengals play the Ravens a lot, and Lamar Jackson is freaking awesome. He's hard to sack. He's hard to tackle. He's accurate. He's fast. He's a nightmare on third down. They're really good. But his playoff resume is not that great. They scored 10 points against Kansas City last year. And then you go back to a game at Buffalo in 2020. They scored 3 points. Entering last week, he had thrown 6 touchdowns and been picked off 6 times in playoff action. Now, he was good enough last week, 16 of 21. That's 76%. Threw for $175 and 2 touchdowns. It was very evident that Pittsburgh wouldn't be able to score, so why push it? He ran the ball a good bit, ran for 81 yards. He's sensational, and he should be the MVP, and he's a Hall of Famer. But you got to do a little bit more in the playoffs, and that's a reasonable thing. I personally think he will. Spoiler for tomorrow's show, I think Baltimore's going to win that game. But he's got to do it. There is no player right now in the NFL who has got more on their plate and more to gain and more to be, I guess, taken away at the same time than Lamar Jackson based on his regular season performance and what he's done in the playoffs. He hasn't been good enough in the playoffs. And I don't think there's even a close second. You could try to throw Josh Allen in there if you wanted to. I don't think there's a close second. Start looking at coaches. I don't think there's a close second to anybody in these playoffs than Lamar Jackson. He's got to get it done when the lights are the brightest. And that doesn't necessarily apply to a game against Pittsburgh, against a team that can't really move the ball. It will apply because you're going to have to score to beat Buffalo. And I think they can. You're going to have to score to beat Buffalo. Beck, you're looking at my list here. These are my top 5. That's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Is there a massive flaw in this list?
I don't think so. I guess you could say maybe Sean McVay with the Rams, just because I don't think many people expected them to get here.
He's got one though in his back pocket.
He does have one, but it's been a few years, and the Rams haven't been
What
great.
about Jaden?
Jaden, I don't think so. I think this is kind of like Joe Burrow when they had their playoff run, made it to the Super Bowl. No one really expected them to be there. I don't think many people expect the Commanders expected them to do anything. I mean, you and I both were not surprised that they beat the Bucs. The Bucs are not very good.
Correct.
But this is now, to me, it's just they're just playing with house money at this point.
Okay.
I don't think they really have
Jalen Hurts.
that. I don't think so either, because he's made it before too. So I don't think he's got much to prove there. I mean,
Is it fair that I've put Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid on this list?
yes, I think so, because the defense has really carried them so far. For the most part, through this season, the defense has played really well. The offense, not so much. So
It's just odd to me that the Chiefs can win every game 21-17.
It is.
Like they
It
win
is.
every week 21-17.
yeah, and so it's like, can they continue to do that? I think they'll probably be the Texans, because the Texans have been pretty good this year, but they've also just been a little more up and down.
Tell you what the Texans have, probably even more so than the Chiefs. They got dudes.
They do.
Stingley, Nico Collins, Mixon, Will Anderson, like they got dudes on that football field. They don't have the dude. That's 15 in red. But like I look at the Chiefs and I'm like, yeah, Kelsey's going to the Hall of Fame, but like, what is that? The Chiefs have Chris Jones. Chris Jones is unblockable. But it's the Texans probably have like star for star more power than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just better as a collection of talent. I think it's going to be an awesome weekend. It starts up at 3:30 on Saturday, and we'll get you prepped for the whole thing on tomorrow's show, as we always do on Fridays. When we come back, let's talk some hoops with Chris Blair. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa rocking and rolling for 40 years at Boudreaux's Electrical. Justin, their son, kind of taking the reins down there in Napoleonville. If you're thinking Napoleonville, I don't live that close to Napoleonville. They're not going to come to my house. They will, I promise. And they have another location in Gonzales as well. So as long as you're in our listening area, they can help you with your Generac home standby generator. They're a certified Generac dealer. They are a premier Generac generator dealer. That means that you're talking in the top 3% nationwide in Generac generator sales. You're going to have a full-time employee doing the installation, highest quality in tubing and wiring, and the majority of that installation is going to be underground, and you get the peace of mind of knowing you're not going to lose power when those storms roll through. You can give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562, or 225-300-9389 in Gonzales, 225-300-9389. I give you the easy way every single day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com. That's BoudreauxElectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Get on by Rouse's, do your weekend grocery shopping. In fact, I'll be at Rouse's tomorrow, Burbank and Lee, giving away hats, cups, gift cards, and talking some sports. Hopefully it's a lovely Friday afternoon. I haven't checked the weather. I'm hoping that it's better. Apparently the weather's supposed to be awful next week, which I'm not thrilled about. We got
low of 27 on Tuesday.
I'm less concerned about that, more concerned about the precipitation, and that's because we
There's
could
a
have
chance of that too.
Daycare closings. We can't have that. That's just not gonna work for the Palmers. We need to get that in gear. So
you can bring Mars you can bring him to the
that
office.
would be great.
Yeah.
He's super well behaved. Super,
we can sit him in the chair across from you.
Yeah, he's great at sitting down doing nothing.
Yes.
He's always real quiet,
That should work out.
super cooperative. Yeah, awesome idea by you. Actually, I will say, if I put a tablet in front of him and gave him like some monster trucks or whatever, he would probably not look up for 2 hours. That's the way that goes. His mom doesn't like that, though. So we'll try to avoid that if we possibly can. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, joins us every Thursday, does so on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
I'm great. I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited to see snow in Southeast Louisiana for just the second time since I've been here.
No.
I am so fired up for it.
I don't want to see it ever again. Got no use for it at all. Just creates a bunch of problems for us because we don't know what to do when it starts snowing down here. Got to close all the roads. It's a disaster.
You know what's funny? I don't know if I told you this last week, but when we were in Missouri, we've all asked why Missouri is in the SEC.
Yes.
They don't seem to fit. So when we go to Missouri, it snows a foot and the whole city shuts down, which shocked me because I'm like, well, I'm sure they're used to it. The roads will be salted and we'll be moving freely. And I was told they don't know how to handle snow. And I thought, well, there's the one reason I found that they should fit in the SEC because none of us know how to handle snow. So there you go.
They're in. Perfect. All right. Let's talk some hoops. Tigers get on the winning side of things on Tuesday night in the Assembly Center. I thought pretty gritty effort. They leaned on their senior guards. What'd you see from courtside?
No, I think it all started with their physicality, Hunt. I mean, if you remember the first half at Ole Miss, I was pleasantly surprised to see that we were, toe-to-toe in the grill of Ole Miss in the same way the Rebels, who we knew would be that way defensively. I thought LSU matched them in that first half, and it's a 2-point lead, 28-26. There were no offensive records going to be broken that day by Ole Miss. At least it looked like it through the first 20 minutes. Not so much in the first 6 minutes of that second half, and that's, Coach McMahon told me that immediately following the game. He mentioned it again on Monday night at his show, and he said, there's a lot of things we can improve on. He said, but we're not going to get anywhere until we get, more physical and match the physicality of basically every team in the SEC, because that's what you're going to get night in, night out. And I thought Tuesday night against Arkansas, it was clear they were the aggressor. And even though they were down, again, 2 at the half, that final 3 or 4 minutes of the first half, I thought LSU was the better team, and they took a page out of Ole Miss. They kept the physicality, and they were, they dictated the terms of engagement in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half, and were able to wrestle away some of the the team stats, eventually build a 9-point lead, and they were able to hold on for a 78-74 victory. Now, they had way too many turnovers again. Double-figure turnovers certainly doesn't help you in SEC play. But they held their own on the glass. They turned Arkansas over, and the Razorbacks were one of the top teams in the country blocking shots, and LSU outdid them 11-6. So I just thought physicality was the difference. Obviously, it helps when you shoot the ball a little bit better. But I think if you play hard-nosed defense and you're physical, that will put you in a lot of games, including the one this coming Saturday against Texas A&M, because that's what you're going to see in Buzz Williams' team.
No doubt. And you mentioned the block shots for Arkansas. Gordy Rush here guarantees got this dope on 1-3 on ESPN, who came on pregame and said, look, this team blocks way too many shots for LSU to run in there. And with those underside guards, it's not going to work. They're going to get those shots blocked. And he felt pretty good about that when LSU was 1 from 13 from the floor to start the game. But eventually they shot 28 free throws, so it paid off. I did not think that was a good plan at all. It worked out.
Yeah, we talked about it Monday, and when Coach McMahon was talking about their rim protection, I made the comment of, well, that obviously means that LSU's going to be very smart when they get deep in the lane around the rim, probably use some shot fakes. And again, he agreed, because if you want to get an open look, that's really the only way to do it with Adu and Thero down there. But credit to LSU. I mean, Derek Fountain, I thought, was a huge spark in the first half, just simply because he was putting his head down and driving, going up for a shot in rhythm, but he got to the line and made 6 free throws. And, as it turned out, those were big plays when you add up in totality. And, there were a ton of times where they went right at Arkansas. Sometimes they got called for the foul, more times than not. There were a few times when they didn't. But as you said, the numbers bear out. They shot the ball extremely well. And, it's interesting you bring that aspect of the game up, because the two things Matt said, number one, physicality, and number two, we shoot at a very high rate from the free throw line. The problem is in the first 3 conference games, we're not getting there enough. So, if those were the two things you wanted to improve on, I think you got to be happy that that's what the coach called for and that's what the team delivered.
No question. Cam Carter and Jordan Sears took more than half of LSU's field goals. Is that the best formula moving forward?
I probably. I mean, Coach Brady talks about it all the time, and he said it since really the first or second game of the year, that you're going to have Cam Carter. He doesn't have to have a career night every night, but you're going to have to count on him to get 20 plus, which I think if I think we got 8 or 9 of those 20-plus performances so far this year. And I think you can count on, Jai Bailey being consistent and giving you 8 points, 6 to 8 rebounds. So then if you get Sears in that 12, 15, 16 range, and then you're able to get the performance from Collins, get a little extra from Derek Fountain, and that could mean only 4 to 6 points, maybe 4 to 5 rebounds. I think that's kind of the method. I mean, your backcourt's going to have to show up every night because you're going to have to count on 2 or 3 of the bigs combining for 15 to 20 points.
I haven't looked in the last 2 days, but my assumption is that A&M probably still leads the country in offensive rebounding. They did so last year, and it's kind of a hallmark of Bud Williams' teams. They're at least in the top 5 if they're not literally number 1. How does LSU keep them off the glass on Saturday?
Well, it's a good thing that A&M's got that going for them, because since they've changed the block charge emphasis, and that was one of the things they used to hang their hat on, was having the most charges. But if you see a charge nowadays in college basketball, it's quite the rarity. I thought LSU did a better job, even against Ole Miss at times, especially in the first half. I thought they did a much better job against Arkansas in minimizing the offensive rebounds. It's fundamental stuff. I mean, it's body on body, and for LSU, it's got to be 5. I mean, it's hard to leak out, and that's kind of the fine line I think LSU is battling. Is we want to get more transition buckets. If you're not a very good defensive rebounding team, not only are you giving your opponent second chance opportunities, but if you bring all 5 to rebound, you're probably going to lose those opportunities for a long outlet and transition buckets. But when you're facing a team as prolific as Texas A&M is on the offensive glass, it's probably one of those things you just got to, deal with. You got to kind of take that off the table. Look, we're not going to get a lot of runouts, but let's make sure we get a body on a body and we don't allow them, 18 offensive rebounds to result in 20-plus points.
You've seen some crazy stuff over there at Reed Arena. Tremont Waters throwing them in from 35 feet to win the game. And, of course, last year nobody expected LSU to go there and win, and LSU did it. LSU's had some success over there.
They really have, and I think all LSU fans and certainly A&M fans are on the Wade Taylor watch.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, Texas A&M's still a formidable team, just the way they play Buzz's system. So it's not as if he's the only link that matters, but he certainly makes an impact if he's not on the floor. And all we've been able to gather just from public reports are day to day. So. We'll see when the availability report comes out, I guess, on Friday, and then they'll update it prior to the start of the game as to whether or not he's questionable, probable, or out. But if you're LSU, they've had success over there. And I think without Wade Taylor, they probably still got to play a better game than they did on Tuesday night. But if they're able to really play at a high level, I think there's every expectation they can go over there and pull up what I think would be considered an upset. And, losing that game to Vandy was tough because you dropped that home game. You got to find a way to steal one on the road. They weren't able to do it at Missouri. Texas A&M may be their first chance for a while, at least on paper, to do that because, as you know, what waits in the wings is going to be awfully tough.
Sure is. Tell all my friends in College Station I said hey.
Oh, I can't wait. It's looking forward to the trip tomorrow. Should be another fantastic 36 hours in Bryan College Station.
We'll talk to you next week.
You got it.
He's Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. He'll be on the call with John Brady for LSU and Texas A&M from Reed Arena in College Station on Saturday evening. All right, when we come back, I think interesting stuff. We all know that the college football playoff is ever evolving. It's going to change. Heather Dinich spoke to a bunch of sources, some on, some off the record, about the immediate future of the college football playoff. What does it mean for LSU? I'll talk about all that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. As I mentioned a couple times, I was with Jonathan Carver and his entire team at Highland Insurance Group on Tuesday morning, had a great conversation with them. Got a little bit into the weeds with insurance, but that's okay. I don't have to do it every single day, so I'm okay doing it from time to time. They do it every single day. We were talking about those tragic wildfires that are going on over in Los Angeles, and we can feel that effect. It's going to hurt some property insurance carriers significantly, and it may be yours, even though you're not directly impacted at your property. But they may have to increase premiums to recoup losses. And if that's the case, and your insurance rate is not great moving forward, you'd like a second set of eyes on it, the Highland Insurance Group would love to help you out with that. Maybe they can't help you directly with the property, but there may be some other pieces to your policy that don't respond correctly. They're experts. They can tell you where you can maybe increase some coverage, maybe save some funds. It's all about dollars and cents to a lot of people, but you got to get a little bit deeper into the weeds to truly understand all of it. They do at the Highland Insurance Group. Call them. They're right here in Baton Rouge, or go to the website, highlandig.com. It's Jonathan Carbo and his team, a trusted insurance broker right here in Baton Rouge. Find them at highlandig.com, highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
I'll tell you this. I have really enjoyed watching the college football playoff unfold. Not only the actual playoff games, but the last month of the season I found to be very, very compelling. Yes, it was disheartening as an LSU fan. That's the most important thing to me. It's always going to be the most important thing to me. And that part of it stunk because LSU played their way right on out of the conversation. But I thought the conversation was interesting. And it didn't take me a long time once they set the playoff to look at that and go, that's not right. Because under no circumstance do I need to look at Boise State and Arizona State catching buys as top 4 seeds in the country. Y'all know that. Y'all have heard me say it. I don't think it's a controversial take. I don't think Ohio State hammering Tennessee and Notre Dame beating Georgia and Texas losing to Ohio State means that, well, the SEC's not that good. And look, Boise, that's fine. They had a competitive game. They could have had a fumble return for a touchdown that got called back. Like, it would have been fine. Like, no. Cool your jets. Let's have cooler heads prevail. Let's look at the last 50 years of data and suggest that we know what teams play at elite level, where conferences they come from, and which ones don't. And I'm not saying that we have to weigh in 1997 when we're looking at the playoff in 2026. But what I'm telling you is we know who the championship teams are and what they look like. And I'm not saying that we need to take 8 teams and break off from everybody and tell Mississippi State and Michigan State and Boston College, everybody to kick rocks and, hey, we're taking Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, LSU, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Texas A&M. We're taking 10 teams and that's the whole league. I'm not saying that. But I understand that some conferences are at one level and some conferences are not at that level. And that was very, very apparent when we looked at the playoffs. So it's not perfect. And it's going to evolve and it's going to change. And Heather Dinich from ESPN has got a story up at ESPN.com right now talking about what changes may happen, how quickly can they happen, and what changes what they may be. And so some of this is on the record, some of it's not, but I highlighted some of the key quotes from the story. You can read the whole thing again at ESPN.com. But one is, it says, it was a high-ranking college football playoff source says, it's not impossible to change something for this coming season, meaning 2025. But I don't see it happening in January, and if you wait until April, I don't know that you can do it for this calendar year. That right there suggests we're going to run this back. We're going to do what we did this past year in 2025. 4 highest ranking conference champions will get buys, and then we'll seed the rest of them right after that. Now, Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglione, a former college football playoff selection committee member, said on the record, the seeding needs to change and it needs to change fast. He said the 5 highest ranked conference champions should still be rewarded with automatic bids, but they need to only get a first-round bye if they're one of the committee's top 4 teams. This is a quote from Castiglione. That, to me, is a big flaw. The seeding has to be based on the ranking. And if you did that this past year, you would have had the top 4 seeds coming from 2 conferences. You would have had Oregon, you would have had Penn State, you would have had Georgia, you would have had Texas. That would have been your top 4, and they would have gotten the buys. It would have been number 1 Oregon, number 2 Georgia, number 3 Texas, number 4 Penn State. Now, this is a quote from Boise State Athletic Director Jeremiah Dickey. This is where you're going to start to get me bristling a little bit, but that's predictable when Boise State starts talking. He said, ultimately, they may change the system on us based on us getting a bye, but I feel we earned it. And just like everyone else, we had to win each week and compete. I think it's awesome, and I hope it does stay the same. Now, I'm not going to yell at Jeremiah directly because Jeremiah has a job, And he will lose his job if he goes on the microphone and says, yeah, we're not that good, but we'll take the bye, but probably you should give it to the SEC team. He's not going to say that. I don't expect him to say that. But we all understand that that's a ridiculous thing to say. It's utterly absurd for anyone to stand here and suggest that Boise State deserves the same thing that Oregon does for beating Ohio State and beating Penn State, while Boise State's out here playing UNLV and Utah State. Those two things aren't the same. Don't tell me about being a champion. Don't tell me you just play who's on the schedule. We know who's on the schedule. The teams on Boise State's schedule are atrocious. They're awful. They play rent-a-wins every single September and get their butts kicked every single September. They stunk in the 90s. They stunk 5 years ago. They stink right now. That's the breaks. So we're not going to reward the group of 5 champion because Tulane and Army played a close game. Forget it. This is not a charity event. We're trying to crown a champion. You want to put them in at the back half? Fine. I'll live with it begrudgingly. You want to give them a bye? Forget about it. No shot. That's got to change. Everybody knows it. I know it. You know it. It's not even debatable. So that's one thing that is going to come eventually. It can't come this coming year, but it's going to come eventually. Now, the other piece to this, and we're getting into this self-serving talk that Dinich is getting from these people who have to serve the organizations they represent. One of those is, let me get this right, Nick Carparelli. He is the bowl season executive director. That is not a great job to have at this current juncture. Would we all agree? I think so. He's more in favor of taking these home playoff games and putting them at bowl games so people will watch them on TV. Listen to this gem of a quote from our friend Nick Carparelli, the bowl season executive director. I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the construct of this new playoff was that the home games would alleviate some of the travel burden on fans. The average fan who goes to a game in South Bend, Indiana or State College, Pennsylvania doesn't live there, right? They're traveling to their home games. I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories of people who have said, I'd rather go see my team play in a warmer environment than have to go there, meaning the home stadium. Be quiet, Nick. An LSU fan from Lafayette doesn't live in Baton Rouge. The same as the guy from Hammond or Breaux Bridge or Thibodeau or Shreveport. But it's a whole heck of a lot cheaper to drive down the 195 miles and stay with Aunt Michelle or Brother Bob or the one hotel for the night on Saturday than it is to fly to Atlanta or the Rose Bowl or Miami. That's insane. These are state universities where the overwhelming majority of the alums and the fans are in the state. That is far more convenient from a travel perspective. And oh, by the way, people want to see Michigan in Death Valley in Tiger Stadium. They want to see Texas go to the Shoe. They want to see Florida State travel out and play USC. They want Oregon at Notre Dame. We don't care to watch these teams play in Orlando. Nobody thinks this way. Now, I get it. Nick has a job to do, so he's not even being truthful. He's just trying to find an angle here. And sure, there are LSU fans that live in San Diego and Charlotte, and it's not that convenient to get to Tiger Stadium for them. That's not who we're talking about here. It's a small minority. So that point holds no water. We want more games at home sites. Am I petrified about the day that comes when LSU's got to go to Ann Arbor in late December? Yeah, petrified. It's going to be like 8, and all my dudes from Opelousas and the North Shore and the West Bank in New Orleans are going to freeze, and we're probably going to lose. Like that's terrifying to me, but it's part of the sport. UCLA had to come down here in September and melt. It just is what it is. But that was the part of the article that I read and actually laughed out loud at Nick Carparelli's thought that, hey, it's really expensive to go to these home games. They want to go to a better spot. I don't think so. What about conference championship games? Well, y'all have heard me be pretty adamant about these things. I don't care about the Mountain West champion or the Conference USA or Sun Belt champion. Don't care to see them play football ever again for all my days. Y'all know where I stand on that. Obviously, everybody wants more home games. It's really cool when Notre Dame's hosting a playoff game and Tennessee's invading the shoe and like all that's awesome. These are very, very standard takes, and they're strong takes by me. I feel strongly about them. I can't give you a great take on the conference championship games. If we're going to reward the winner, it feels like that game has to mean something to reward the winner. And if you're just going to let all the losers in, it's hard. It's hard. I don't want a sport that means it's more positive for you to miss the conference championship game a la Tennessee this year than it is to go play in one. And I would be okay with eliminating them, but you're never going to do that because there's too much money at stake. Because those conference championship games, while every once in a while Northwestern or Missouri or South Carolina sneaks in, Duke got in one year, you're always going to get Ohio State and Michigan and Georgia and Florida and Bama and LSU and Texas and Florida State and Clemson and Miami. And like there's teams are always going to show up, and that's good theater. But I don't have a great answer for you. I haven't sat there for hours on end trying to figure it out other than just not play them, and we'll take everybody in a representative sample size of 12 games, and everybody's played the same 12 games, and then we'll pick. But I understand that that's not a realistic solution, so why give it any thought? I don't know. I don't have a good frame of reference on conference championship games and a good solution. Like, I realize it's good to let the champs get in. If we're just going to say the loss doesn't matter to the teams that lost, is that reasonable? Especially when you're looking at Texas this year, who didn't mount any great wins. They went to College Station and beat a 4-loss team. Went to Michigan, beat a 6-loss team. You know, that's part of their resume is they did play that game against Georgia and didn't win it. That one's tough to me. I'll be very, very candid with you. That one is very tough. The last thing there is do we expand? And do they go to a 14-team format that would have 3 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams, 2 ACC teams, 2 Big 12 teams, and 3 more slots dedicated to Group of 5, Notre Dame as a qualifier if they get in, and a true at-large. So that would leave 1 true at-large with Notre Dame. And that's, again, why I don't like Notre Dame's status in college football, where we have to put a caveat in for them every single time. It drives me nuts. But that 14-team playoff this year, if we have 3 for each of the SEC and Big Ten, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 3 slots for Group of 5, Notre Dame, and an at-large, that's 14. This year, that would have netted us Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Arizona State, Iowa State, SMU, Clemson, Notre Dame, Boise, and Indiana, I think. So you're looking at Iowa State being the ad and everything else basically staying the same. Again, I don't need 2 slots guaranteed to the Big 12. I think that's ludicrous. Iowa State's resume does not warrant them being in there. And I probably wouldn't have put Indiana in either. And I certainly wouldn't put Boise in. So that's not perfect. I think every time we try to please everybody, you're watering things down. You can point me towards Cam Scadaboo and Arizona State all you want. You can tell me SMU had a good team all you want. You can tell me that Indiana was good all you want. I'm not listening. I want to watch the big boys play. I'm not going to get my way, I don't think. But I do think there is change coming in the near future that is going to alter what we saw this year, specifically starting with seeding and ultimately probably letting more teams in the playoff. I don't have a solution for the conference champions, but I think we're moving in that direction. Although in 2025, you're getting status quo. So if you're LSU, you know the rules. And I believe the rule to be 10-2 gets you in. Get to the SEC championship game and win it, probably the 1 seed. Get to the SEC championship game and lose it, probably in. Those are the rules as LSU will have them metaphorically explained to start the season. That's what you got to figure out as of Labor Day weekend. Good piece by Heather Dinich over on ESPN.com. You can check it all out. I just highlighted like 6 lines from it. I've got 4 pages printed out that are here that are the entirety of the story. So more quotes and more to get to. I just kind of bit off the big chunks there as we continue on our Thursday show presented by Rouse. We'll come back and close things up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. How about 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance? Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It's awesome. Genesis of Baton Rouge, you buy a new Genesis, 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance. That means they come to you, they pick your car up at work, they pick your car up at home, drive it to the dealership, they leave you with the car. So if you got to get the kids to somewhere, you got to get somewhere for the job, you can make that work. They do your maintenance, wipers, cabin air filter, all that kind of stuff. Bring it right back. That oil's changed. You're ready to rock. Complimentary valet. Just one of the perks of being a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. How about a 10 years? How many of you even drive your car for 10 years? You would have a 100,000-mile warranty on that vehicle. It's as good as you're going to find in the industry. Genesis of Baton Rouge is a phenomenal company. Unbelievable people. Right there at Airline at Pico. Get on by and check them out. If you haven't put Genesis on your list, I highly recommend you do that. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. 600,000 king cakes. You heard that right. 600,000. That's how many they're going to make this year. So if you're looking for a king cake, if you're headed to the parade route, or just want one at the house like we do at the Palmer House, Rouse's has got you covered. They got your flavored. They got your standard cinnamon. They got them at every location right when you walk in the front door. So if you're looking for a king cake, be sure and get on by Rouse's. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, before we get started here, I just happened to notice you closed your laptop there, Ryan. That wouldn't be because it's dead, would it?
It's dead as a doornail,
That's
baby.
what I
Not
thought.
a tick of life in it. But
Great.
It got to the finish line. That's all we need.
It did, but what if I just put a bunch of stuff in this document that actually needed you to see, but you couldn't see it? That would be
Well,
not
you
good.
have the ability uniquely to cut off the air and speak directly into my ear, so we'd be good.
I do. Okay.
Run
Starting
me a note.
off.
Just write a note, bring it right up here.
All right, first one. You owe sales a Rouse's king cake. Take it or leave it.
I think I got to leave this.
Just leave it alone.
I did get a piece of Rouse's king cake from the sales department earlier today. It had the baby in it.
Oh, yeah.
However, I believe it was a gift from a client.
I think you still.
They didn't bring it in.
I
If
think you're on
sales
the
would
hook.
have paid for it, and then there was somebody who was supposed to bring the next one, then yeah, I'm on the hook.
Cassie,
But
what
if
do you
a cli-
think?
If a client's going to bring it, that's their deal.
I think since sales didn't pay for it, you don't need to get them.
Okay.
Exactly the point.
All right, I've been out.
I haven't gotten the baby in a long time though. What a thrill today! Wow.
That's fun. What kind of was it? Just a cinnamon or
Just
what?
a cinnamon, a
Okay.
standard, and it was delicious.
Is there any left, by the way?
Well, I haven't been over there in 2.5 hours, so I can't tell you.
Well,
It can be a.
thanks for telling me. Thanks for letting me know they had some over
You got
there.
work to do pre-show. Got to get the sound in. Got to make sure everything's all set
All
up.
right, we got
to.
to. All right, moving on. Live Golf has inked a TV deal with Fox and FS1.
Fox.
You're unsubscribing from Fox. Take it or leave it.
I need to. We're gonna.
I'll take it.
Pathetic. Don't do partnerships with those people. Greg Norman leaves 5 minutes later. They get a new CEO and a television deal. That's not coincidence.
Well, I think it also is not a coincidence that the PGA and Liv said they were going to join forces somehow last year. So that's probably part of the reason why this
Some
happened.
good Northern Irish player just went to live. Rory tried to talk him out of it. He did. It's
Yeah. By
terrible.
the way, did you see that the European Tour event Rory's playing in? It's like the Dubai Classic or
Yeah.
something. There's like an American amateur that's currently leading. I think it's like
Sweet.
20 years old.
Is it me?
No, it's not you. You're
I'm
not
an
20.
American
You're not
amateur.
20 years old. I don't
Oh,
think.
I didn't hear that.
You're a
part
little bit
before I
older
said
than that.
Do you think I would have a chance to win that tournament?
No, I don't.
Of course I would.
No, don't think so. Next one, 19-year-old. Speaking of young Americans, 19-year-old American tennis player Lerner Tien, currently ranked 121st in the ATP, He beat number 5 seed Daniil Medvedev. He's pretty good in
Nice.
5 sets, becoming the youngest American to reach the 3rd round of the Aussie since Pete Sampras. He was pretty good in 1990.
Moose's guy, Pete Sampras.
Yeah, he is. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
Pete Sampras was my guy. Wimbledon, big deal in the summers when I was out of school. Used to lock in, loved Sampras. Used to play tennis in the backyard and kind of fake like the Sampras little wiggle and then go up and hit it. Serve volley game, excellent. Wife, excellent. All good. Pete Sampras, stud.
All right, yeah, so it's actually, the guy's name is David Ford. He's playing in the Dubai Classic. He is 22 years old. He goes to North Carolina.
Wow.
So Tar Heel leading the charge here. John Rahm is playing in this tournament, 3 under. But moving on, last one. The power going out at 11 a.m. on a sunny day. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it at the Beck House, baby.
Wow.
That's
take it.
proof that you have not talked to the folks at Boudreaux's Electric.
Well, that's true.
Do you have the peace of mind of knowing that your
No, I don't.
power's not going to go out?
No, I don't.
Or are you annoyed right now
I
at the
am.
back of the power?
I am.
That tells you all you need to hear.
It is.
Don't be like Beck. That's
Don't be
really
like
something
me.
you could live by. But in this instance,
And you know what's funny too is that the power goes out and I hear outside my house all the generators turning
yeah,
on.
that's exactly right.
Some of them
I
installed
used
by
to have that
Boudreaux's.
next door at the old house. We don't have that problem anymore. Excellent work. Great job, Beck. Call Boudreaux's.
Thankfully, we have a water heater is a gas. Thankfully, so we could take a hot shower at least.
That's good. Take a shower, Beck. I'll be at the first pitch banquet tonight. Hope to see y'all out there. If not, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. Have a great and safe Thursday. Ready for a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.